Hi everybody, welcome to my channel for a new battle report. This time a small practice game. This was my first battle against new Vermin Swarm. Thanks a lot for Trent for accepting to face me in a practice game. I was really looking for someone ready to play when I had some free time, so I was really happy to find him. Thanks a lot to Jake also for putting us in touch. That was really nice to face also someone else from another country. Is always something cool. So yeah, Trent, who is I think quite new with using the Vermin Swarm, so he was also testing some of his lists, so I was quite happy to get a test and to get a taste of the new Vermin Swarm, so to say. My list, you saw it in the previous video. If you didn't, I recommend you to watch it because I explained some of the choices in the list. And this is Trent's list, so like I usually do, I open the book if I don't know stuff and I try to write it down just to helps me to have everything in mind before the battle. So he has a Renew's Dictator, 3 Swarm Purist, making a very strong magic phase, both damage wise and also buff wise. A Prefect, 2 block of core, 50 Black Veterans and 55 Legionaries, 2 unit of Velites to be additional scoring. Something that I didn't know, the Fetish Brute aren't scoring actually, which I saw they were scoring, so this also changed a bit, but he has 2 times 15 Fetish Brute, which is a lot of Resilience 5 health point, so I was really eager to face them to see if I can manage 30 Fetish Brute and an Arena Beast, which is I think something that we see in a lot of lists at the moment because it helps covering some of the weaknesses of the Vermin Swarm, which is operating on the flank freely. So to have some single models to be able to protect or be aggressive on flanks is, I think, something very important for the Vermin Swarm list, basically. If you want to avoid playing all your games in a corner, I think you need some of these models to operate on the flanks. We played all the ground because I really wanted to test that, just to ensure we have plenty of combat and we can see if my list is strong enough damage output wise to get rid of so many health points. So yeah, I was happy to test all the ground, and then randomly we got diagonal Rufus flank, which is perfect because it's the most aggressive setup you can get. Spell wise, I took the following selection. I took so many buffs and spell that can influence combat as I could. In hindsight, I think since he has no binding scroll, I could have exchanged the breast weapon for Triad of Face, for example. That can be annoying for a single model, because basically when I have Smite, Hereditary and Rod to cast for combat, I think this uses already all my dice in most of the phases, so I could have taken something else. And on the right you have his spell selection, so yeah, very good mix between some buffs that he can get from Witchcraft or Occultism, as well Smite from Tome, and then he has Pentagram, Hand of Even and Wrath of God that can do damage from distance, so obviously very good spell panel that he has at his disposal. Matchup analysis. So this is something I wrote before the battle. I try to do it when I can, when it's only practice game and not a tournament and I know the match in advance. I try to do this because it's much more interesting to see at the end what was accurate and what did I learn during this battle. So this is a very fighty VS list with a lot of beefs, meaning a very good test for my list to see if I have enough power to really kill so many health points. I think it's not easy on the paper for Vermin Swarm to engage with this list against me, to push me, because basically he has no chaff, or at least no unit that can charge chaff far away, meaning it's hard for him to advance on the map when scary unit like Tusker or my Tribe Star that are quite scary still on the paper have more movement than him, meaning can charge further away, and I have chaff at my disposal. So I expected not so easy for him to move forward on the battlefield. Fetis, I think on paper aren't too scared of mercenaries. Tusker, there is debate because Tusker don't have so many wounds. It depends a lot if I get the buffs off or not. The fact that he has no binding means that I'm likely to get either Smite or Hereditary off, and then I should be totally fine. So, but definitely Tusker charging could do quite damage against Fetis, but he's likely to be steadfast. So these are his main traits. I need to be really careful with the 30 Fetish Brute, the way I deal with them. I really want to use my chaff to not get in combat with too many units at the same place. I think this is key to be able to focus the punch at one place, make sure there is no counter charge thanks to the chaff, and then reform and be ready to charge other stuff. My range damage, I will be willing to focus it at Dictator and Arena Beast. I think they are a good target for both the Frosty Hunting Spear and also the Poison Shot. My game plan will be to engage when I have good condition to do it against a chosen unit, if possible in a situation where I have good odds of winning it, meaning 2 against 1 or combat, stuff like that. Estimation before the match, I was expecting to be draw-ish. I don't think it's really accurate on all the ground because, like, for the reason that I just mentioned here, I think I'm much more able to move forward than him, meaning on a secondary objective like all the ground or spoil as well. I think I have a slight advantage against his list. Could be different on other secondary objective, but I think on all the ground I have a couple of points that I could add here to the correct estimation would be rather a small win, I guess. Deployment. So I won the roll for sides and pretty straightforward. I gave him something that causes him a lot of DTs, can break some steadfast, very annoying, plus an impassable in his zone. So very easy. And for me, I have a heal and impassable that is not so annoying because it's really on my big triangle where he's not able to put a lot of stuff to annoy me. So I was quite happy about this part of the board. Trent, which makes sense, decided to drop everything for first turn. I just for him as information, because I don't think he expected that, or maybe he expected that, I don't know, but my intention was when you check the matchup and everything, I would have used my drop to try to not to start, or basically I wanted to counter deploy to make sure that I have the right stuff at the right place, especially thinking about my range damage that want to be annoying for his single models. And if I drop for first turn, I have a slight risk that if I deploy my mercenaries to one side, he puts the Arena Beast on the other flank, and then it's very hard for me to deal with it, and I have to use a big unit to cover and zone a unit that is slightly, double less expensive than me, which is something I wanted to avoid. So definitely I have enough unit and drops to delay the deployment and see what he was going to do. So even if he didn't deploy for first turn, I would have just put a small unit, and just wait until I see enough of him. So that's something that I would have done no matter what. So he decided to drop for first turn, which makes sense definitely against my army and the fact that we play all the ground. But what surprised me is that he decided to let me start the game. I think he wanted to be in control of who can score all the ground. The problem is that I have so many scoring units in comparison to him. As you can see here, I have scoring. So yeah, I have like 6 scoring units around the center possibly, against not so many for him, because he has 1, 2, 3 and the 4th here, and 2 of them are quite small. So I think it's quite hard for him to play all the ground and then let me start, make sure that I get the right counter deployment, plus I can gain some board control, and this might be a bit complicated for him. So I think if I were him, I would have decided to start the game by dropping like that. Let's move on to, you saw my counter deployment, so I put mercenaries here. Frosty, Bruiser, Tribesman, Bruiser, Tusker, the Giant on the side, and the Tusker, the small Saber-tooth Tiger in the middle. My turn 1, as you can see, I didn't move so much. I really wanted to wait for openings to make some range damage, so I just positioned my mercenaries slightly on the hill to have a look at what happened in the middle, and I positioned my Giant out of line of sight of the big brick to just start to apply pressure on his flank. I think this is quite key against Vermin Swarm. If you can do that, he might be in trouble. I use my Frosty to cover the angle and make sure that the Arena Beast, basically if he wants to come to the side, I will see him, and I can always throw some hunting spear and shoot him to death. So I really want to get rid of that as soon as possible, but he was outside of my 18, so I cannot move 6 and shoot him first turn. So at least that's that. And then it was quite interesting to think about the risk management. What kind of charges do I want to give him to the Fetish Brute, basically? What kind of combat am I ready to take? What I decided to do is to give him a 10 on North Swift Ride for both Fetish unit against my Tribe Star. Basically what I considered when doing that is, first of all, the chance of getting a 10 on 2 dice is pretty small. It's like 10% more or less. So not much. The chance of getting both, which would be a nightmare for me, is really, really small. and if I get one against me, that's a combat that can go both ways, depending a lot of what does the Great Khan deliver. So it's very dicey combat, and basically what I consider is the fact that if he fail charge, he's in big trouble, and if he fail charge both, basically he has nothing to chaff me, and then he might get very close to my unit, and I might get what I wanted, which is a 2 against 1 situation. So this is what I gave him, and then the rest, I wasn't so eager to take so many risks with other units that might struggle more in one situation. So I gave him like double 6 on mercenaries, I think here 11, or double 6. Also small units were slightly further away. Basically I was trying to be patient on that, just gave him some opening to charge in the center, but with the downside that if he fails that, he is in big trouble. So that was my idea. In the magic phase, I got -1 resilience on the Arena Beast, trying to hurt it as much as I could with my poison shot. I rolled then 666 on the Wrath of God, but Trent managed to dispel that, and then I was able to get a breast weapon on my Shaman with 1 dice, just in case he goes for the long charge, then I have some additional bonus, but I had just 1 dice left. Wasn't a big phase. Shooting wise, I wound 4 times, he saved 2 of them, so I just did 2 wounds, and then we move on to Eastern 1. So he went for the bait, took the double charge on a 10, failed both, so we couldn't really see what would happen here, and I think this put him a bit out of position here, but we'll see. Use the Velite to try to protect the flank of the big unit, just making sure my giant cannot charge the flank, but this also depends of the terror check he would have to take. And then other than that, he decided to hide the Arena Beast because he saw that another phase like that and he could be death. Considering last turn, I think what I should have done to just give myself a bit more safety would have been, rather than try with 4 dice remaining, rather than try 3 dice Wrath of God and Breast Weapon with 1 dice, I should have tried 2 dice Hereditary on the Death Star and then 2 dice Breast Weapon on the Death Star. Just making sure I get those extra couple of wounds to make sure I can hold combat no matter what, and then I have good counter charges in place to basically punish him. So I think here I could have been slightly more safe just to avoid that he gets extra lucky and goes through my Death Star and I'm in big trouble after turn 1. So I think here either I should move 1 inch further back maybe, but I don't think that's the right solution. I think it was still good to be like that, because by failing those charges he's in big trouble. But I could have just used my magic slightly differently just to make sure that I can have at least 1 buff on them, and then there is, I think, almost no downside for me anymore to having to hold the charge. So basically that's it for his movement. In his magic phase, I used Binding Scroll on Wrath of God. Didn't want to have any brass in the middle of the park at this point of time. I need my full forces, and I had only 5 dice to dispel, so I didn't want to take the risk. So I Binding Scroll that. He got -1 resilience on my giant, trying to hurt him. And then shooting, he did 2 wounds to my giant, 1 wound to Tribesman. Here I think, magic-wise, if I were him, I would have tried to focus some debuffs on the Tribesman or the Tusker, just to making sure I cannot go in combat without any debuffs. I think -1 resilience doesn't matter that much against a giant, that he's on the side. The game will be decided in the center, not on the side. My turn. So yeah, I took these charges. They were pretty easy charges, so I took Tusker, but before that I checked all my options. So first I throw the giant against them. Basically I wanted to force the terror check. If he failed that, I could have redirect against his flank, possibly saving me a chaff. So I tried to do that. He passed the 5 minimize, so I charge him, and I have a second chance, which will be an overrun on an 8, and if I get that, I'm in his flank and I block him and I save a chaff. To not take any risk, I just made sure I use a piece of chaff to, in case he charged me, there is no overrun against the Tusker, and I'm safe no matter what. So even if I don't get the slight luck to be in his flank, he cannot go into this central combat. So if there is no counter charge, I think I'm totally fine with this combat in the middle. Left part of the board, I attempted a slightly long charge, was a 9 Swift Ride to the flank with my Frosty. Basically, it was very appealing to me because I could charge on the corner in the flank here, just fit. And basically, then I could use Tribesman unit to Bruiser unit, to march forward to block the reform he might do. And then basically first turn, I only get 4 attacks, strength 4 against me, and then upcoming turn, I might only take 7 attack against me, meaning I will lose by 2 rank, but if I manage to do 2 wounds each turn, I'm totally fine, and then he might be stuck long enough for me to free up units to countercharge and basically ground him. So I was feeling pretty happy with this opening, but I failed the long charge. I decided to position my mercenaries on the hill to shoot at the dictator. Basically, this gave him an overrun on a 10 on 2 dice, but I made sure that even if he succeeded that, I would have a countercharge with my frost in his flank. What I didn't check and should have paid more attention is just to be in range. I think I was just out of range of the Great Khan, meaning if he destroyed them, I have to take an 8 rerollable. I could have positioned the Great Khan slightly more in the middle to just be within 12, and then in case this get destroyed, I get a 9 reroll. So this reduces a little bit the likelihood that I'm in big trouble because they fail the panic and flee in the back. So here I think I could have been slightly more careful, but yeah, small detail. And also I wanted to put 3 scoring in the middle, making sure I get the first point. Let's go to magic phase. So I got hereditary in on my Tusker, just making sure that if he strikes at them, he wound me on 6 up, because I don't have so many wounds, so I need to be careful. They have only 3 wounds each. I got -1. I was really lucky with that. I got a random smite against them with 2 dice, and with his 4 dice, he didn't manage to dispel that. So he fizzled 3 times at least, but I got -1 resilience off, which is kind of huge. And then shooting, I shoot at the dictator, but he did the forward save, and I did only 1 wound, which is not much. And close combat, basically, yeah, the Great Khan didn't do much, but just the Tusker and Tribesman with -1 resilience did too many wounds to him, and he broke because he wasn't steadfast anymore, meaning if he's not steadfast, he's not and unstable anymore, so he was in auto break mode. What I did slightly wrong was a bit stupid. I could have been slightly more to the left to just make sure I got the overrun with the Tusker against this unit. I was just a couple of millimeters on this base. I didn't expect to break them in one go, but I could have made sure that if I can break them in one go, I can overrun against the big unit to make sure that I have a second attempt to block him and spare chaff, and also make a possible combo combat with the giant. So that would have been slightly better. I was here, didn't pay attention too much, was, yeah, a bit stupid. And here I broke them and overrun to his flank. He's turn 2, so we're like that. Here I overrun, and yeah, I catch him. Basically both units decided to pursue. Here I was blocked because of them, and this unit overrun in the next unit. He's turn 2, so he decided to go for it, try his last chance, so to charge them, go for the overrun. But even with the overrun going in, I think he's big trouble, because this unit is going to get a free reform and then can charge the back, the flank, destroy him, and then I have just too many strengths against these 3 units that shouldn't be able to demolish my list. So I think here the charge wasn't too good to take, because even with the long overrun, it's just way too complicated to take them to the flank, the back. So yeah, but he decided to try it in the magic phase. I dispel Will Turn on my tribesmen. This was definitely a spell I didn't want, looking forward for the combat against them. He tried Wrath of God, but he failed that one. And then he killed them. I passed my 8 rerollable. Yeah, like I said, I could have been a bit more... make sure that I get 9 rollable. I could have done better than that, so I wasn't too happy about that. But yeah, he killed me, didn't overrun the 10, he just overrun like 5, ended up here. I killed like a good amount, he popped a couple more and then reformed to the back, but looked forwards because that was my turn next. My turn, so here I just deleted the unit, so I just free pivot and then charged to his flank. And I also got the Frosty to the corner because of the position of previous turn. I was just able to get the corner and then charge after with the Death Star. So I got a nice situation that even if we stick, yeah, obviously I don't want him to stick because then he could flank me with a big unit, but I'm not overly scared of that unit, and his block phase flank is just very complicated for him, and I felt I didn't need to risk the very precious health point of my mercenaries. I prefer just to keep them on the hill and continue to shoot at his single model rather than put them in combat, because I didn't need to, basically. Right flank, I double charge, so my giant has taken a couple of wounds. I have only like 2 wounds remaining, or 1 wound remaining at this point. So I double charge with Bruiser and Tusker against his big unit. I will be out of line of sight of the rest of the units, so I should be fine, I guess. I think he couldn't see me. Position this unit in case I need to chaff later, and I kept also the dog for later chaffing, but yeah, it's later. I like to use them mostly as chaff at the beginning of the games, and then him slightly after, because I need to protect him from Hand of Heaven that can be cast from the bell. Also Pentagram is annoying for him, so it's hard to activate him at the right time and not lose him before. The magic phase, I got Hereditary on Tribesmen, I got Rod of Battle on Tribesmen, and he dispel -1 resilience on them, which makes sense because -1 resilience is very annoying for him, and that's the most hurting. Shooting wise, I did 3 wounds to the Dictator. He saved 2, so 5 total, but he saved 2 of them. Rolled quite well with the mercenaries. Here he killed my giant with the 4 attack. He did the last wound, so he killed me. But I did a lot of wounds, and after the unstable resolution of combat, he has like 5 guys remaining. So I'm going to be free on his turn, and on my turn I will be ready to charge with them. So as you can see, the game is almost over here. Get rid of them. Since he's minimized because of the aura of the Frosty, I decided to pursue with the Frosty. Ended up blocking by the Impassable, so I ended up just here. Catching them because they're minimized. I'm swift right, so I catch them and I just restrain them and reform in a way that I can take advantage from the aura of the Frosty in case he decided to charge me crazy. And also giving front to everybody and making sure that the Arena Beast, if he want to triple charge me, he has to put the Arena Beast in contact with the Great Khan, which is something I consider to be good for me. So I decided to go for it because nothing else to do. I mean, the rest of the table is already clean, so I try to go for it to take the big points in the center. But I consider what I might do. I wanted to see how this combat goes. I have 2 buffs, so I'm on 2-up against the big block. Should be good. And the Flea wasn't looking too good. I could have fled the last charge, but I needed a 7 swift ride to go over and run to safety. Which is, if I roll low, I just get cough. So I decided, let's see this combat. And also, if you consider the overall board, even if you get those nice points, it's like 1,200. But then I will just kill the rest. Because they are free, everybody here is free and can just charge crazy, and I will just delete him. So this shouldn't, even if he kills them, I think shouldn't change the result of the game too much. So his magic phase, he lost obviously because of the water train. He lost 7 from DT. In his magic phase, he got -1 resilience on me. I dispel. He 5 dice reroll to wound against me, and I dispelled that with 6 dice. Obviously, that was an important spell because if you would get that off, that could change the result of the combat basically. And then close combat was interesting. He didn't do much because he's not very fighty with Dictator. He tried to go with the Arena Beast for my Great Khan. I passed his 2 ward save, but totally I was losing by 2 before the Stomps and the Great Khan striking. With the rest, I did like 10 wounds with my Tribesmen. 2-up against them is good. I did 1 wound to the Vermin Demon, so I did like 10 wounds totally. And due to static res, I was losing by 2 at this point. And then my Stomp, I killed 2, so I was already on a tie, and my Great Khan murdered the Arena Beast. I was on 2-up, but I rolled only 2 wounds, so I rolled a couple of 1s. But then he didn't pass any of the 2 ward save, and I rolled enough wound to kill him. So I killed as well the Arena Beast, and then he has to pass. He lost by 3, so he had a 3 minimize to keep him alive. Didn't pass that, popped, and that was just the end of the game because after that he has only the big block remaining, and I have still all my forces alive, most of them at least. So that was it. What can I say about the game? I think for me, it's a confirmation that I think counter-deploying was, no matter what happened from Trent's side, the right decision to wait to see what kind of matchup I want in this game because of the type of list that he had. I think it's much better for me to optimize the matchup. So I think he was right to drop, but he should have started the game, I think. It's very hard, like I mentioned at the beginning, it's very hard for the VS to really, with this list, to push forward against my combat power, because I charge from far away, I strike really hard, and he has no way to chaff me properly. So it's kind of hard for him to engage me. I think it's definitely hard to win secondary in this game. I have so many scoring, I charge for far away, so I get the table. So I think here, yeah, my estimation was definitely a bit too cautious. I'm definitely better than him on this game, on this matchup, I guess, because I just charge far away. My scoring are striking hard, are my main combat power, so yeah. Getting 2 versus 1 close combat against Fetis just made safe those combats. I was able each time to break him on one go because I had so many combat power. I had like, yeah, Tusker plus the Tribe Star, it's like 2000 points in a combat, and then Frosty plus the Tribe Star, it's a bit less, but also it's a lot of combat power going against the Fetis, so this made sure that I was safe. I was slightly surprised. I expected to be slightly more in trouble with my Death Star against his triple charge, but yeah, the Dictator wasn't striking hard, and I was boosted enough to be on 2-up against his main unit, which was really key for me. So yeah, Tribesmen it was not a problem to take this combat at all. Breaking the steadfast of the Fetis was key, because then he wasn't really able to take advantage from the unstable rule and stay long in combat and block me and grind the wounds and buff them afterwards. So if I charge, break him, catch him, he has no opportunity to buff them. And I think also on his side, like I mentioned during the battle report, at some point he could have tried to debuff combat in advance to try to make me think twice before trying to engage a combat against a unit. He could have given, for example, +2 ward save on a Fetis unit, or try to give me will turn or stuff like that to just yeah, augment his chances to be able to stick. And also to keep in mind for me, when there is no Binding Scroll in the opponent's list, I think it's definitely not worth it to take the Breath Weapon. I cast it once, but didn't matter. I would have better taking the Trial of Faith instead, just to add some additional pressure on the Arena Beast and the Dictator. So I think definitely 3 combat buff against no Binding Scroll is enough. Just take Rod of Battle, Smite, and Hereditary is definitely enough. Okay guys, that was it. Thanks again a lot, Trent, for the test. Like he told me, I think he was also quite new to the VS and this list, trying stuff, so I'm sure also this will help me to think about his future list. I hope so. At least it was interesting for me to get to know, and also to try a little bit to see how it can go if I engage on my own terms. So definitely I learned a little bit about the matchup against the archetype of list with Renew's Dictator, so it was interesting for me. Good training. Thanks a lot guys for watching, and meet you soon on another battle report. Bye.